I'm Tommy Evans.
And I'm Devin Schmidt.
And in this one, we're going to show you what we use to get the cleanest and tightest guitar DI possible every time, after the intro.
We're audio engineers that specialize in heavy music, and we make videos about the recording and mixing process.
If this is something that you're into, and it's something that you want to learn more about, that's awesome, thank you. Start now by hitting the subscribe button and by tapping that little bell icon so that you get notified every time we post something new. Have you ever been recording a guitar or mixing a guitar track and you just didn't love the way it sounds? Maybe you couldn't edit out a string noise, or maybe you couldn't find the right tone that does the one thing that you need it to do for the whole song. We've been there. It sucks. But here's how you can fix that and prevent that from ever happening to you again, forever. Let's go.
The first hack is for you to test out your VST amp simulator guitar tones with the gain maxed out. The louder you turn up your gain, the more noise issues you're going to start noticing. This is especially helpful to do before you start recording in order to stop any problems that might arise later in the mixing process. You might not notice any issues with the gain at lower levels, but by turning it up and removing any extra noise you might hear, your final tone will be much cleaner when you turn the gain back down. As a quick example, we find a lot of ringing noises right up here above the nut. If you just do a couple quick chugs, you'll notice an extra ringing noise that's coming from right over here. In that case, we would take a fret wrap and just pinch those strings in order to eliminate that ringing sound. You can find these fret wraps anywhere, Amazon, any musician store. We'll post a link in the low end for you.
Hack number 2 that we live by is to find different tones for different parts of the song. You don't have to find the one tone that does everything you need it to. Here's what I'm talking about. Imagine you're dialing in a guitar tone over a jumpy pedal riff, kind of a metalcore style rhythm riff, and it just sounds amazing. It starts to soar, but then all of a sudden the chorus hits and your guitar start doing this open strumming thing, and then they either sound too dull or lifeless or even too bright sometimes too. Now, one of my favorite things to do is to beef up the guitars and darken them as well during the choruses, during the big strummy parts, because that's usually when the song gets at its biggest. The cymbals are going crazy. That's when you have more vocal layers going on, most likely. There's also some kind of synthesizer or atmosphere going on in the background too, and all of that take up the same range in your high-end frequency, and you don't want the bite of your guitars eating into that and just making everything sound harsh and hard to listen to. So that's why we beef up the guitars and take the bite out of them during these big loud parts, because everything else is taking that job over for us. Another fun thing that we like to do is, say you've got 2 rhythm guitar tracks on the left and the right. Those usually will have the same guitar tone, and then you've got a lead track right up the middle as well. What we like to do is to have that lead track going through a different guitar effects chain, just so it doesn't feel like it's this one big wash of the same thing. It's nice to have different textures that you can play with and recognize, and we want that lead that goes up the middle most often to take up a different sonic space in our frequency, so that way they're not fighting with the rhythms that are on either side of it.
Easiest way to do this, just pick a different guitar head, maybe different cab, just subtle differences, especially if you're using VST amp simulators. The possibilities are endless. You can do anything. Just be creative and try things out.
That's actually a great idea. One idea that I just had as well is you could use, if your guitar VST has different microphone options, just use a different mic. So you can keep the same setup, the same amp and cab if you want to, if you like them that much, but just use a different mic for that center lead track and it'll do the job as well. You can really do whatever you want.
All right, hack number 3 is to try using different guitar picks for different parts of the song. This is kind of a trial by error type tip where you're going to have to experiment to figure out what sounds great. In general, you can expect that you'll want a thinner pick for strumming over multiple strings and a thicker pick for more bite and more body while riffing. The thin pick's going to glide nicely over the strings while allowing you to hear the chord more cohesively, while a thicker pick's going to add more meat to your chugs and your riffs. You'll get a more solid sound with some attitude, body, a little more bite. How thick or thin you want to go is really up to you. I mean, obviously picks come in different shapes, sizes, and really the player has the most control over how something's going to sound on the recording. If the player can give you a great performance with the best pick possible for the situation, you're going to be on your way to creating something really special.
Now, yes, as silly as that sound, it does matter. The pick matters. When you want to get to this professional level and you want your audio to stand on its own next to other professionally mixed and mastered audio, everything matters. And the pick is included in that as well. If you notice, if you've got a paper thin pick and you're chugging, that paper pick is going to bend and fold over the strings, and it's going to flop over the strings or the chord that you're trying to chug. There's no power in that. That's one reason why we like to use thicker picks, just to give it that more solid body that we're going for when we're chugging.
I mean, try it yourself. Just get a variety of picks, plug in, make a bunch of tracks with the same guitar tone, and just play the same riff or the same breakdown or whatever you're trying to do over and over with each pick, and just listen to them. You'll hear differences, I promise. We've put together a couple quick clips for you to highlight what we're talking about.
Hack number 4. I think we've been calling these tips and hacks, but you get it. Point number 4 that we want to get to is taping off your unused strings. Now, yes, in an ideal world, we're recording guitarists that never accidentally hit an open string or never brush up against the strings that they're not using on accident. But we do not live in an ideal world, you know this. But instead of complaining about it, we're going to become resourceful and we're going to adapt to it. And by doing that, you learn that you can tape off the strings that you're not using. Now, I'll show you what I mean. If you're in the heavy genre like we like to be, you're not going to be spending a lot of time on this part of the guitar or on this part of the guitar. For the exception of maybe some solos or some more melodic leads, you're going to be focusing a lot more of your time and energy up here where all the rhythm and where all the meat is. So what we like to do for the tightest and cleanest and most error-proof guitar DI is that we like to tape off the strings that we're not using. We use these Velcro straps to do that. You can get these at any craft store, Home Depot, Hobby Lobby, online, on Amazon. Get them from somewhere. We'll show you how to use them right now. So again, now that we've got a guitar on profile here, we're going to be imagining that we're going to be playing like a rhythm riff up here like we do most of the time, and we're not going to be using these bottom 3 strings for anything. So we're going to be sandwiching the Velcro straps over these bottom 3 strings right here. Go ahead and do a close-up. Now here's a clip of a poorly played riff that has all kinds of open string noise behind it. Check it out. And here's that same guitar riff played again while taping off the strings that we're not using. Listen to how much more cleaner it sounds. You'll notice how much tighter it sounds, and that's going to do you favors because you don't have to edit as much and you don't have to spend as much time mixing mistakes later on in the process.
Our final tip number 5 is to tune your guitar to the chord being played. Guitars are an imperfect instrument, but recording, we want to get as close as possible to perfection in most situations. In the real world, not every guitarist is going to bring in a perfectly set up guitar with perfect intonation. In my experience, even the more expensive guitars have a hard time intonating to the lowest string on the 12th fret. To combat this, try holding down the chord and finely tuning each string to the fret you're holding down. By doing this, you create a perfectly tuned chord. The only downside to this is the extra time it's going to take you, and you may have to continue doing this for every chord change in the song section. But if you're willing to go the extra mile, you'll have a cleaner, perfectly tuned guitar chord, which will make your mix that much easier in the end. Normally, we would just do an open, tune the guitar to whatever you're tuned to, but in this situation, if you're playing way down here and your guitar doesn't intonate very well, this 8th fret is probably going to be sharp, and this 12th fret is probably going to be even sharper. So simply bar the chord you're playing and tune each string to that specific note. That way when you play it, every string is perfect.
So there, those are our... Why are you sitting like that?
For the outro.
So there, those are our top 5 guitar tracks. I'm facing this way now.
Okay.
These are the tips that we use every time to get the cleanest guitar DI possible, every time, and they work. Do these and watch your guitar tracks level up. Hey, question for you. If you've used any of these tips before, let us know which one you like the most. And if you haven't seen any of these tips yet, let us know in the low and below as well which ones you're looking forward to most to trying. I look forward to hearing from you. If you want your music mixed by us at Droids Recording Studio, please contact us at any of the links in the low end. We look forward to chatting with you. Until next time, always use your blinker.
And always change your strings. Your bass too.
Exquisite. Sounds phenomenal. If you want your music mixed by us at Droids Recording Studio, I feel like you're still doing it. I feel like you're still doing it.
I feel like for the outro, it's funny.
All right, fine. No, I'm not though.